Hello, America. This is Life, Liberty, and Levin, and I'm Mark Levin, and we have two great guests. Jim Jordan, how are you, sir?
Doing fine, Mark. Good to be with you.
Chip Roy, good to see you.
Good to see you, Mark.
You don't need much of an introduction.
I don't know about that.
Well, in 2006, May, you won the Republican primary race for the 4th Congressional District of Ohio.
Yeah.
And you've won ever since. You have a 100% lifetime rating from the Ohio Taxpayers Association. You're one of the founders of the House Freedom Caucus.
Mm-hmm.
Chip Roy, I know you very, very well. You've been
Sure.
a longtime conservative activist in the state of Texas. You also were chief of staff to Ted Cruz for a period of time, and you're now a newly elected member of Congress from the 21st District of Texas.
Yes, sir.
Well, we had an important election,
Yeah.
and people are messaging about this election. We picked up a few seats in the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
We lost 36 seats or so in the House of Representatives. I understood the president's message. He was all over the country campaigning. He was very, very focused on what he was campaigning about, the economy, immigration. I understood the Senate side, Kavanaugh, among some other important things.
Sure.
Here's the problem. I still don't know what the House of Representatives on the Republican side was running on. I still don't know what the message was. And I would have thought with the economy as it was going and the president out there, while it wasn't a blue wave by any means,
Right.
why did they take so many seats?
Yeah.
Jim Jordan.
Well, you're right. I don't think we matched, on the House side in our races, I don't think we matched the intensity that the president has displayed here in this town, taking on the establishment, taking on the swamp, taking on this town. And remember, everywhere the president went, he made a huge difference. You talk about Missouri, you talk about Indiana, you talk about Florida. We got a Freedom Caucus guy who's now the governor of the state of Florida, one of our largest states.
Ron DeSantis.
He came to Ohio on the Monday before. The projections were we might lose all statewide races. We won them all but one. And that's because the president came to Ohio. So the president, there was an intensity and energy about this guy that the American people appreciate. They saw that matched in the Senate when the Senate stood up and defended Kavanaugh, but they haven't seen it from the House. I mean, have we replaced Obamacare? Have we reformed welfare? Have we secured the border? Those were the three biggest promises we made the American people.
The leadership there would say, well, wait a minute, we sent that stuff to the Senate. Is that true?
Some of that went to the Senate, only the health care bill. We didn't do a welfare reform package yet, and we certainly haven't secured the border. We had a good bill, as you know, Mark, that we all supported as conservatives, that Chip was campaigning on the campaign trail, but we only got 193 votes because we couldn't get enough Republicans to do what we said we were going to do. So the message should have been in this campaign, we've accomplished what we told you we were going to do, more importantly, what you elected us to do in 2016. That should have been the message, but we couldn't say that because all we had really gotten done was the tax cuts. So this is going forward. We have to regain the trust of the American people and get accomplished those. Tell them, if you put us back in power, we're going to get those things done.
Chip Roy, what did you campaign on in your successful race?
So my message was pretty simple. I ran, as Congressman Jordan just alluded to, I ran on securing the border, I ran on health care freedom, and I ran on balancing the budget. And these are all things that Republicans have said they would do for a long time, but failed to do. And if you want to know what happened, you don't need to look any further than the fact that the Republicans literally failed to do what they said they would do over the last several years. I think that this is a clear symptom of leadership failing to do their job, to paint with bright colors, to use the language that Reagan used. We had the opportunity of a lifetime to actually gain in a midterm. The American people were hungry. I can tell you in my district, they're hungry for leadership. They are happy to see the president shaking things up in Washington, breaking the status quo, getting rid of 15 regulations for every one new regulation, getting us out of the Clean Power Plan, so-called, getting us out of the Paris Agreement, making sure we've got good judges. But I can tell you this, had it not been for the Democrats' blatant overreach in the Kavanaugh hearings, re-energizing our base base was demoralized and sitting back because the House leadership and the House Republicans weren't giving them a reason to support them. I don't literally even know what the message was from House Republicans on what they were trying to sell. I know what I sold, and it worked, and people listened.
But this is a good point. I can't even tell you today what the position in the aggregate, the Republicans was in the House. And I can't tell you what the position is today going forward with the Republicans in the House. Is this why you helped found the Freedom Caucus, to bring to the floor these conservative positions and principles?
Totally. Our mission statement talks about the countless number of families who feel like this town's forgotten them. Our job is to remember them and fight for them. And to do it with a smile on our face. I mean, I always tell people, you know, we're conservatives. We got the truth on our side. I love what the Vice President Pence has a great line. He says, I'm a conservative and I'm not mad about it, right? That should be our approach. We got the truth on our side, but let's go fight for it. That's what our voters want. They want to see an intensity, a passion for the things that made our country special in the first place. They see that in our president. I mean, I put this list together and I said it for the last several months across the campaign trail. Think about this. In 21 months under his leadership, Mark, taxes cut, regulations reduced, economy growing at 4.2%, lowest unemployment in 50 years, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh on the court, out of the Iran deal, embassy in Jerusalem, hostages home from North Korea, and oh, by the way, we also have a new NAFTA agreement. That's pretty amazing. But tell us, what was the House, what was the Congress's contribution to that? Certainly the Senate helped on the Supreme Court justices, and certainly we helped on the tax cut. But the other big things, the biggest promises we made the voters in 2016, we haven't got those done. We've got to have the same kind of energy and passion about getting those done that the president has on all the things he's accomplished.
Chip Roy, let me ask you this. Securing the border, controlling spending, repealing government control over health care. Do you get a sense that the Republican Party in the House of Representatives is going to push that agenda, even in the face of the radicals who will be taking over these various committees? Isn't it an obligation of the Republican Party to have their own agenda and get on the floor of the House and get on TV and radio and press their case over and over again? I get the sense that everybody's out for themselves. I get the sense it's a bunch of squirrels that are not being herded. What do you think?
I said something the other day with some of the folks who have supported me that I said, I am not running for Congress in order to run to get reelected. And that's unfortunately too often the case with too many people in Washington on both sides of the aisle, that they get here and the first thing they start thinking about is moving levers to get reelected. That's not why you're here. You're here because you know that there's the greatness in our country that is being held back by a government that is too much in the way of their ability to manage their own lives at the state level in their homes and their families. We will make a terrible mistake as Republicans if we allow the Democrats lurch to the left, which they'll no doubt do in committees and going after impeachment proceedings and whatever they might do. If we let that define the narrative, instead of Republicans then painting with a bright picture about what America looks like when we allow people to live free from the burdens of government. We know we've got a message that will excite them and get them enthusiastic, and not just our base, but Americans across the country. And whether it's healthcare freedom, whether it's a secure border, the basic function of a sovereign nation to secure your border and to make sure that we have a balanced budget. In what world is that a partisan issue? $21.5 trillion of debt, $65,000 for every man, woman, and child in America. Right. That's extraordinary.
Two things going on here. Republican leadership, Democrat leadership. They seem to be focused myopically. It may not be easy.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they'll have a majority of 17, something like that, of these new members coming out of Republican districts. They're going to have to be a little bit nervous. A couple of dozen of them coming out of the Republican suburbs. They may be one-termers if they're not careful. But typically what they do is they go left in Washington, then they go home and lie about who they are. So these two sort of forces, if the Republicans in the House don't get their act together, they're going to be crushed by the Democrats on the Senate side.
So right. You're so right. And Chip just said it. If we're not clear and compelling and articulate on the issues that count, the ones he just talked about, we're about to enter a world with Nancy Pelosi as Speaker, Maxine Waters, Adam Schiff, Elijah Cummings, and Jerry Nadler running the key committees. We're going to enter that world. If we're not willing to stand up and fight for the things that count with American people, that they sent us here to fight for, we're going to be in trouble. I think it's important to step back and think of the environment we're going into, and what we saw it yesterday. We saw it this past week with Jeff Sessions stepping down as Attorney General, and all the comments that came from the left, from Nadler, from Elizabeth Warren.
Constitutional crisis.
Oh my goodness! So this is the world we're about to enter, and if we're not willing to stand up and fight and be clear and compelling about it, we're going to be in big trouble.
Well, I'm a little concerned about this. A lot of this depends on the ranking Republicans on these various committees. And if they're not prepared to take out the brass knuckles, it's going to be one ugly fight. And with them on top and us on the bottom constantly.
Every week. Prepared to do it every single day in Congress. Because it's going to be that intense. You're right.
Well, you know, you watch some of these hearings that Republicans had. the House Oversight Committee as an example, and the Judiciary Committee as another example.
Yeah.
They're on both of them. And what did the Democrats do? They disrupted them.
Yep.
As if they were members of CNN or something at a press conference. They were disrupting the committee hearings.
Yeah.
So the Republican message and the Republican effort couldn't even get out. I doubt the Republicans are even capable of that.
Well, and we shouldn't disrupt for disruption's sake like they do. We should just have the debate. We got the truth on our side. Let's defend the truth. Let's defend the facts. But let's have the debate. All too often what happens in Congress is we show up for my background's wrestling. Wrestling, you step on the mat, you shake hands, the ref blows a whistle, and you go at it. And you're trying to kick his tail. But when it's done, you stand up and shake hands afterwards. What we typically do is we get in there and shake hands, and right before the ref blows the whistle, we say, time out. We're just going to forfeit. We're just going to let you guys do what you want, and we'll kind of maybe say a few. Like, this is, in the world of Maxine Waters and Elijah Cummings and Jerry Nadler and Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff, you had better show up with the attitude, we are going to take the fight to them.
Well, let's call them out for having prejudged all of this in the first place, right?
Yes.
They're campaigning on impeachment. Well, what is impeachment, right? It's the equivalent. I'm a former federal prosecutor. You know that. It's the equivalent of a grand jury. And yet would you pick a grand jury and allow them to be filled with people who had already prejudged the case? Yet we know that's precisely what they've done. So let's call them out for that. Go back and get all of their remarks of saying they've already decided they're going to impeach Kavanaugh or impeach the president. And then let's get focused back and give speeches and go out and mobilize people to call the House out for failing to do their job. And that's what we need to focus on, whether it's Republicans or Democrats. They have a job. Balance the budget. We really shouldn't even leave town until we just get together and balance the budget and appropriate to that budget. It's what the American people have to do in their homes. It's what the state of Texas has to do. Why do we even allow them to go there and leave town without balancing the budget?
Let me ask you both a question, because I've been thinking about these coming investigations, because they're all geared up. They're very excited on the left, as leftists always are when they're trying to destroy the other side. They go after the president's taxes. They go after the president's businesses. They go after his kids' businesses. They go after all this private activity. The Constitution provides for congressional oversight for legislative purposes. There's no legislative purpose in getting the president's taxes. There's no legislative purpose in going into his business dealings or anything of the sort in this massive fishing expedition. So if I'm the President of the United States, I say, I'll see in court.
Yep.
Because you know what? This isn't constitutional. All you're trying to do is destroy the ability of the executive branch to function.
Yep.
Are you guys prepared to make that argument?
Heck, yes. And because, think about it in the context we're in. They want to do that, but when we want to get to the bottom of something the federal government, specifically the executive branch, more specifically the FBI and the DOJ did, that was, I believe, unconstitutional, where they took one party's opposition research document, dressed it up, took it to the secret court to get a warrant to spy on the other party's campaign. They want to stonewall that. So we had better make that argument loud and clear, and we better continue to get to the bottom of what the FBI did when Secretary Clinton's campaign paid the Perkins Coie law firm, who paid Fusion GPS, who went and hired a foreigner to go talk to Russians to put together a fake.
You think the Democrats are going to look into this?
They're not, but we better keep raising this issue, because that is as wrong as anything I've seen. They're not going to focus on that at all, of course, but they're going to go do the things you just described that are unconstitutional.